On March 8th, 2020, we were all gathered together in our hall of worship where I was preaching a sermon entitled Pockets and Sedition about a relationship between sexism and women's fashion. It was light and a little funny. It was not reflective of the odd situation in the room. Those of us who showed up were sitting at a distance from each other, having let go of even the elbow bump of a few weeks earlier in exchange for the safer greeting of bowing to each other from across the room. I don't remember if we had fellowship hour that day. I think we didn't. I think we decided it was safer not to. We were all acutely aware of a new virus that was sweeping the planet and had made its way to New York. My old neighborhood in New Rochelle had been isolated by National Guard troops in an attempt to keep the outbreak there contained. Hospitals were seeing more and more patients with trouble breathing, and they didn't yet have protocols to help them. Wuhan, China had been shut down, with every family relegated to their homes, allowing only one person to leave every other day to pick up food or medicine. That seemed bizarre, extreme, severe. How terrible for those Chinese people. Then Italy, people trapped at home, no one is working, socializing, going out to eat, and so many people are dying. That week, when people entered my office, I apologized for not shaking hands. I noted to a group from Albany how lucky they were to be coming when the city was getting so quiet. Their drive in was easy, parking was a snap. Conversations on Tuesday about shutting down seemed extreme. By Wednesday, Satya and I were recording elements of worship in my office just in case we weren't able to be together on Sunday. She was informed by the UUA that her meeting with the Ministerial Fellowshipping Committee was going to be online rather than in Boston. So we decided she should get on a plane to Oregon, where her family was, and to settle in with them for a few weeks until things quieted down in New York. She packed a bag, she left her cats, she flew out in the morning. That evening, I spoke with other ministers of UU churches in Manhattan. One had a doctor on the board who begged them to close. They listened. The other had a board meeting that night, and I called our board to let them know what we were learning. I suggested we close down for a week. We had an important meeting scheduled in 10 days that we absolutely needed to be together for, so we planned to close until then. That Thursday, I recorded a brief reflection that we connected to the other elements we recorded on Sunday, that we recorded on Wednesday, and on Sunday we showed that videotape service. Later that day, New York City was shut down. On Monday, I met with program staff online and assigned and imagined ways for our members to stay connected through the next couple of weeks. That temporary schedule has held for a year, with a few tweaks and some additions from members with good ideas. It's held for a year. What started out as a temporary schedule has become our lives together. Schools closed that week too. My son got off the school bus in the middle of the fourth grade, carrying everything he had in his desk and cubby. He hasn't been back in the building since. Like millions of other kids around the country who are struggling to learn, to connect, to find meaning in their lives through Google Classroom and drive-by birthdays. New York was in lockdown. No public gatherings. Sports arenas were quiet. Broadway went dark. Restaurants closed their doors. Churches canceled their services. Offices told everyone to work from home. Streets got quiet, except for the sirens. All day and all night, we could hear the sirens. My neighbor was infected. An ambulance came to get her. Medics were in hazmat suits. Everyone else kept their distance. In the evening, people banged pots and pans in gratitude for healthcare workers, and it felt good to connect, to know other people were out there. There were sweet stories of people singing in their buildings with and for each other, and others of people bringing groceries to those for whom leaving the house at all was dangerous. Getting food was complicated. We weren't wearing masks yet, so we walked down aisles of grocery stores with our heads turned, following taped arrows on the ground, touching things with rubber gloves, and constantly washing our hands with Purell. The stores were out of stock. Things we were used to having all the time were gone. When the packages got home, we'd spray everything down with rubbing alcohol because one study said that COVID could get into your house on surfaces. So everything was washed down until another study told us there was almost no chance you could get sick from a jar of peanut butter. Then we stopped. We listened to the doctors and the scientists who were working as fast as they could to get a handle on this pandemic. We learned quickly who was essential. Doctors, nurses, orderlies, sanitation workers, that was expected. Also, Grubhub delivery people, the cashier at Trader Joe's, people who make toilet paper, volunteers at homeless shelters, dock workers who receive supplies from overseas. In some states, clergy were deemed essential, and that was probably by death workers like funeral homes and directors, people who run crematoriums. I got a call from the active duty chaplain stationed at New York Langone who was working with the National Guard deployed there. She asked if I'd record a thank you message to the troops working in our neighborhood. They were exhausted and depressed as they loaded bodies onto refrigerated trucks and needed to know that those of us who were benefiting from their work even knew they were there. She needed clergy to offer a blessing. I did what I could. I remember the first death. I remember the first 1,000, that moment the New York Times sent an alert that 1,000 people had died from COVID. I gasped. It took my breath away. There were 537,214 confirmed this morning. We're getting used to it. Numb from the numbers. Somehow 1,000 seemed larger. Meaninglessness, whether we were working or not, started to define American life. We learned that without other people, life becomes empty. We created opportunities for connection, generally through Zoom, where we became disembodied heads reaching through our screens. We noted that even those of us who lived with other people missed hugs and hand-holding and even the casual touch of someone walking behind you or sweeping by you on the street. Days melted into each other, giving rise to the line, "Today is Blur's Day," each time. While time seemed to stand still. Paradoxically, as time stood still, everything changed quickly, and life was suddenly very different from what it had been. It was also very different household to household. For some of us, life got very quiet and lonely. For others, it got loud and chaotic. People who live alone or with one other adult found vast emptiness, while those with young children felt overwhelmed by the lack of help and the constant talking and noise with no one around to take the pressure off. It takes a village, and regardless of life circumstances, we've all been given a glimpse into life without that village. This year has taught us, or it's taught me, that things I thought were nearly impossible are absolutely possible with the right motivation. The first on that list is climate change. As a result of global showdown, My voice is not doing so well this morning. As a result of global slowdowns, we've seen a marked improvement on air quality, a reduction of water pollution, and an overall decrease in greenhouse gases. Things got better without even trying. We also learned that we can, as a nation, prioritize public health over the economy. We have to do much better at it and get more intentional about it, but now we know we can do it. We learned that we can learn and adopt new technologies. If I had announced on March 8th that our entire church community was moving to Zoom, you'd have told me you don't know what that is and aren't confident in your ability to learn it. But here you are. And many of you like it a lot. You like it so much, you hope it remains an option even when being together is safe. And I agree. I think we've unleashed something wonderful here, and I hope we don't lose it. At the very least, it'll be an option for all our meetings, and worship will be live streamed as soon as we can get open again. And for those who are wondering, we think that'll be homecoming, the Sunday after Labor Day. So, what else have we learned? I think that the chat is open for you right now. I would love for you all to write in the things that you feel like you've learned this year. There were other things that happened this year that became meaningful. In my son's school's circles, people started leaving items for each other on doorsteps. I don't know if this happened for you in your social circles. Fresh baked bread, cupcakes, pasta dishes, care packages with Mad Libs and invisible ink and slinkies. We found ways of reaching across the divides. We formed bubbles and pods of people committed to each other's safety, and some of us even made new friends, even in a year of isolation. And all year, I've been watching people take care of each other. We're delivering medicine and getting each other vaccine appointments. We're cooking for each other and calling to check in. We can't hold hands, so we're holding each other's stories, told on small screens, but held in real hearts. We are apart, but we are loving each other well, even across the distance. And when this is over, which should be sometime this summer, we will have been changed. We will be more resilient, but we might also be more fearful. We'll be more prepared, but we might also be more tempted toward hoarding. We'll be more confident in our abilities, but we might also have more anxiety about doing things we used to do without thought, like eating in a restaurant, or going to the theater, or going back to work, as much as we dream about doing all those things. I don't have a crystal ball to tell us what's next, but my hope is that we use this pandemic experience as a reset. We were on a collision course with our own choices, racing toward climate collapse, doubling down on an economy first culture. Exhaustion would have been the word I used for American life. People were tired. The planet was tired. We were losing energy and resources. This has been a year to regroup. We found within ourselves what we needed to take strong stands against structural racism, making meaningful impact across the country. We found what we needed to prioritize our health and our families over economic growth. And we discovered that our governmental systems can help us if they want to. We learned the benefits of ongoing scientific research, and that if we want educated children, we need more than phenomenal teachers, but extensive community involvement. For a year, the busyness stopped, and we got some perspective. We reprioritized. We regrouped. This year has uncovered important and somehow unnoticed aspects of human life. We've become witness to our profound interconnection, our desperate need for each other. We can see clearly the pain of those who are most vulnerable in our economic and social systems, and our collective denial about racism and oppression is being laid bare. We let ourselves believe we had too much to do. We're too busy and too occupied to attend to our hearts, to our spirits, and to this hurting world. We were wrong. This pandemic stopped us just long enough to force us to see. It is my hope that this becomes a portal through which we walk into new possibilities, radically new ways of engaging with each other and our own lives. This 1 year anniversary isn't the end as much as we wish it was, but the end is close. We have only so much time left to rest and to reimagine the new world, to hold us in the spirit of love and care, and to remind us there is still much road ahead of us. We are going to close with the Keep Going On song, which went viral, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago. I'm hoping you find it as healing and joyful as I do.